Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we will be doing a first look at the game Black Flight, a solitaire air war game from Historic Wings and Thomas van Hare. This is, as you can see, Historic Wings. This is kind of the printed version with all the components and everything that is done through Blue Panther. So if we take a quick peek at the back of the box here, this is pretty much what you would expect. It is a solitaire air war game in a narrative style about the Royal Naval Air Service and the number 10 Naval Squadron set in 1917. It is the first book of the Great War series of games. Now, if you're not familiar with Historic Wings, when they talk about first book, the games are typically in book form. And in this case, they come with the printed components done by Blue Panther so that you don't have to kind of do your own type of thing. This is, and you can see right here, printed by Blue Panther under license. We're going to get the components as well as the rule book, and you may have noticed on the front here it does say rules included, because you can buy the book separately through like Amazon, and then you would be able to, if you wanted to, buy the components without the rules. I elected to just get it in one box. So that's kind of how this works. It's a little different than what you're probably used to seeing, but this is a system that actually does work. I have removed the shrink wrap, so let's dive in here. Okay, so you see we've got some cards here. Right, that says Vice card on it. Okay, we'll take a look at the cards in a bit. I'll just set them to the side for a moment. And you have a trait card. So based on what you got there, you've got a Vice card and a trait card. Perhaps one is good and one is bad. I have not... That would be my guess anyway. Turn duration cards here, and then there's probably some other things. This one would show you, does show you, I should say, victory points per EA. I'm guessing enemy aircraft shot down, and so on, right? So we'll put those to the side, as I said. So here is the rule book, which when you get it this way, and I can't get it out of the box, comes spiral bound, which is kind of nice because, as you would probably gather, you can lay it out flat like so and not have to worry about it, right? So you can see available on Amazon, Tally Ho, which is a Battle of Britain game, Mag 23 Guadalcanal. This one I have. And you can buy the components from Blue Panther, I think. At least I believe you used to be able to do that. My guess is you still can, right? All of these games listed here are things that are being worked on, I suppose, and a few surprises not listed above. So you can see here, this is a relatively thick book. On the back of the box, it says the complexity is a 7 out of 10. So this rule book runs 90-ish pages, but a lot of it is just, well, I shouldn't say a lot of it. The first 59 pages cover the basics. Oh boy, I am struggling over my words today. Cover the basics of gameplay. Then we have an example of play that runs about 16 pages, and then your assets, which would be your tables and so on, as you can see here. So as you can see, this is a fairly lengthy rule book, and I will not, as I typically would do, go through this in relative detail. We're going to kind of skim over, and then down the road, I'll do another video where we talk about how to play and actually play the game. All right, so we start with some background information. This is kind of the setup for what you're going to be doing. You'll be the squadron commander of Naval 10 and fly from Jogland Aerodrome in Flanders across the trenches and into no man's land, and then it lists the type of missions you'll play, and that you're facing the Imperial German Air Service, including Baron Manfred von Richthofen, who of course was the Red Baron. Then you've got an overview of gameplay, how your squadron is comprised, your 3 interconnected play loops, and then something about the planes and your pilots, the enemy, decision-making, learning the game, types of gameplay, pilot skills and personality, and then you've got scale and how the dice and tables work, things about your aerodrome and all that. Here you got Ypres Salient here and all that stuff, right? So you can see, just flipping through here, It's not a simple game. It probably deserves that 7 out of 10 complexity scale. There's a lot of things to go through here, and that was my experience with Mag 23 as well. They are fairly they're not basic games, which is really good. I mean, if you're looking for a solitaire game that is very detailed, these games are in that. In my limited experience, these games are in that niche. So you've got a lot of notes, a lot of rules, and some good notes in here, right, about various things. Some pictures occasionally. How do you set up a dogfight? Yeah, withdrawing from a dogfight, conducting your dogfight, all kinds of stuff. Collisions, if you're shot down, breaking off, dogfight scatter, altitude levels. Here's the Solitaire AI. So it talks about the AI for scouts, which were fighters. That was World War I terminology for fighter aircraft, was scouts. Then you have for observation and bombers, surrendering. There's a strategic play loop with patrol orders, I guess, escort patrols, offensive patrols, line patrols, escort photo, recon, escort artillery direction, bomber escort, British or French, launching a patrol, movement while on patrol. There's things about orbiting, climbing and diving, gliding. There's a lot of stuff in here. Encounter rules, rendezvous, initiative, ending a patrol, operational play loop, right? The nitty gritty. The patrol plan, end of day tasks, special orders, what happens after you land, placements, awards and promotions, trait cards, effects of pilot stress, reducing your pilot stress, aces. You can apparently be recalled to London. Bombing passes, raid parameters, damage and injuries, bombing victory points, special rules. So I guess there are other aerodromes you can perhaps fly to, listed here. Get the white Walfish. In some weeks of the campaign game, a special orders mission allows you to, or asks you to intercept and shoot down an all-white painted Roland C-2, the white Walfish. This aeroplane is flown by an expert pilot with many attack dice. Okay. History of that. Hunt the Fat General. So these are kind of special missions, I guess, right? Victory conditions and campaigns. You have a grand campaign. And here's your example of play. And you see that basically your aircraft have, your pilots, I guess, have attack dice. So here's Daniel Shved Niemi, who is actually one of the guys who does, he's a content creator. And you probably know him if you're into World War II solitaire games, because that's what his channel originally covered. He's renamed it and branched it out a little bit, but yeah, Daniel's a good guy, and his content is very good. And you can see kind of some of these will probably look pretty Dean Taylor. I recognize some of these names. Scott Poulter, he's Poltergeist. He's a content creator. Grant Kleinhens, he's half of Player's Aid. So yeah, you've got a lot of various somewhat famous pilots listed. No, I shouldn't say famous. War game famous pilots listed in here for their example. That's pretty cool. And then here's your list, right? So I'm not in the cool. I guess I'm not in the cool kids club, but it's fine. Let's see. So yeah, you can see some of how the components work in here and so on. Right, here's our cards with the tactical play loop. You can see some of where the markers are and the altitude level and all kinds of stuff like that. This is pretty cool. See, there's a lot of detail, and things are very well designed and put together and everything. And then we get into our tables here, so you can see what some of the tables look like. And I'm sure we'll see, I think these come as well outside the book. If not, obviously we can flip page to page to find them. We're getting on towards the end here. And here's your squadron roster where you can write out your pilots, right? You've got red flight, black flight, and blue flight. And you can name them whatever you want, right? Here's a kind of a grid with their attack dice, their aircraft ID, their number of victories, trait, and vice cards. Here's kind of a campaign sheet, I think. Week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 through week 11, I guess, is the final week. And then, of course, a very helpful index at the back. And that is the end of that. This game was copyright 2025, so it's a relatively recent release. And I have to tip again to get this out. This is our campaign game tables historical content. So this one has campaign news and weekly tables to be read at campaign game start. And then week 1 to final days news and tables. So I'm not going to really go through this in depth because this is probably things that are meant to be discovered as you play. But you can see you've got daily orders and special orders for your campaign through week. Then you've got slang terms, aerial combat. So this is more historical notes and things, black flight and circumstances in May 1917 and so on. So I'm not going to go into this too much. Because I'd like to save some mystery for when I actually play it. So then we've got our counters. And they are cut. They are die cut. It's kind of hard to tell, but you can see I punched one out here. So this is a Scout. Scout's A. Right? And it's kind of that... If you've ever played a Blue Panther game, this is kind of what their counters are like typically. They're not your standard kind of the counters that most of the bigger publishers use that are printed in China come in a more traditional format. This has a very distinct laser cut to it, and you can tell that the material is a little different, and it's got side nibs, which I know, or edge nibs. They're not on the corner. So I guess side nibs is right. A lot of people don't like these. You can kind of sand them down if you really wish to, I think. They don't bother me that much, but I know some people don't like them. So you've got 4 sheets, I guess, of things here. So that this is all things you would have to print out if you elected not to pick it up from Blue Panther. And you can see here, this actually comes out as well. These are your bands for weather. Partly cloudy, heavy clouds, rain. And then here, I'm just going to get all of this out because it doesn't want to come out very easily. So we'll just do it that way. All right, so this is sheet 3. And now you have the bigger kind of aircraft counters here. So you get a nice, good look. Right, this is a French bomber, the Breguet 14. And we have some Germans here. Aces and so on. Oh, there's the wallfish, or Walfish, the all-white guy right here. 8 attack dice. Roland C2. I wonder where the fat general is. And there you can see some of the famous ones. There's the Red Baron. There's Werner Voss. He was a big name ace as well for the Germans. You have that. And here's sheet number 2. This is the front. And these are more aircraft. And we've got some Brits here. Right? We've got a Sopwith triplane on that side. Here's the Pup over here. We've got the Spad, which was French aircraft. More Pups and triplanes. And they are double-sided, right? So you can see both sides. And last but not least, we've got one more here. Sopwith Triplane Scout. Tells you it's got one machine gun. This, of course, would be its capabilities. So they're all similar to each other. And you've got an German observation plane there. And as is the case with the rest of them, they are double-sided. So those are our counter sheets. Here we have Aerodrome. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. I should go a little further. There, now you can see the entire thing here. So down here we have die rolls for takeoffs and landings with 2d6, out on patrol, and then places to put various markers to keep track of things. I did not really go through the rules in depth, as you saw, so some of the markings here are still a little bit unknown to me. And here we have our flight roster with their trait cards, max 2, no limit on the vice cards, and there are 3 pilots per sheet here. Okay. These are all single-sided, of course. Here is the altitude levels from 12, which is over 22,000 feet, and then all the way down to altitude level 1, from 1 foot to 2,000 feet. So I would imagine you're probably going to mostly be in this area right here. Those guys didn't really fly all that high. They didn't have oxygen or anything, so going too high was not really all that ideal. Here's your daily operations track. So beginning of day, flying patrol, engaging in dogfights, ending patrols and days. Look at that. And finally, we have our map. So it's a paper map. And move the cards out of the way. And zoom out a little bit so you can see this. So you get a better idea of what it looks like, right? So you can see the aerodromes marked on here. There's Droglant, which would be our home base, I guess. Then various place names. Here's our front line, the trenches, right? Cambrai Trench, all the way down here. Of course, this side would be the German side. And you can see their aerodromes with the cross on them. You've got down at the bottom here, I'll move it up a little so you can see it a little better. You got your formation altitude track, your Archie and ground fire over here, your turn track, your weather track, patrol period, and the dogfights in the patrol period. Keep track of, because at some point you will have to RTB, which I'm sure a lot of you probably know is return to base. So now let's take a look at some of the cards. So they put this, and you have to realize which one is first. They put kind of these clear bands on them. These are the vice cards, right? Not much of an abstainer. Flies when hungover and not entirely up to snuff. So you're going to roll a d6 during the first dogfight setup on a patrol. 1 equals suffer, -1 attack dice penalty applies for the duration of the current patrol. This vice card is permanent and cannot be removed. So some of these would not be permanent. You've got the ladies' man, the lead swinger, has the wind up, ham-handed, overwhelmed, gun shy. These are all negatives, of course. Target fixation, lazy Lawrence. Always out for a rip, often flies alone despite orders. Mr. Self-critical, hypochondriac, abandons the patrol, top cover. Charlie, exhaustion, insubordination, the hunter, the companion, attack, 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 drinking in the barracks, best friends. Cold feet, daring Dan, you get the picture. We won't go through all of them. And let's look at our trait cards. I always do that. I try to do the side one first, and it's always the lengthwise one that is on top. Trait cards. Natural gunner. So this would be a good gunner. He gets a, for every hit he scores during dogfights when rolling on the damage table, at a +3 DRM to his die rolls. So that's pretty nice. Relentless Randall, the specialist. Wickedly vindictive. Whenever any allied pilot suffers a wound, including himself, whether severe or light, he flies into a rage and seeks revenge, and he receives an extra attack dice in all subsequent dogfight rounds for the remainder of the patrol and game day. Perfectionist, the six man. Sawmill's good son, Tundra Tim, how's she booting her? Oh, he helps the ground crew. So he's like kind of a mechanic, I guess. Yeah, no, for sure. Keener, bloodlust, give her the gun, making a deke out of him. A real beauty. Whenever he flies on a dawn patrol, he's at his best. He receives +3 attack dice when flying during dawn patrols. However, in all other patrol periods, he suffers a -1 attack die penalty. So he that's a morning kind of guy. Cowtown Bud. This is the opposite. He's a nighttime guy. Getting her done. Maple Leaf Max. A nod to a Canadian. I'm getting Canadian, eh? A strong newfie. Contour chasing, calculated killer, marksman, desperate rage, cold-blooded, skookum man. Pretty cool stuff. You can see there's a lot of little historical nuance there. And then this one, I did it again. All right, then we've got our turn duration cards. So this one obviously is a special. Then you got a shuffle the deck and various turn durations from 1 to 9. All right. So that, my friends, is Black Flight from Historic Wings and Thomas van Hare. That is it for this video. Thank you for watching. Please consider leaving a comment if you would like, asking questions, just getting something off your chest. However you want to look at it is fine. I like comments. I will do my best to reply to you. But other than that, I appreciate you watching. Hope you'll come back and check out something else down the road, and ask that you would consider liking, sharing, hyping, and or maybe taking that giant leap and subscribing to the channel. If you're already a subscriber, thank you very much for that. Big shout out to my channel members. We have 2 levels, Hexed and Countered, and you can learn more about that by clicking the join button. But a big shout out, as I said, to my channel members. I appreciate the support. That is going to do it for this one. I thank you again for watching. Hope you'll come back. But until then, I'm Joe. This is Hexed Encountered. And as always, happy gaming.